Hi class, this is Neil and this is lesson 2 of unit 9. In this video we're going to go over reference angles which appear on pages 3 and 4 of today's lesson. I'm going to transition over to the slideshow, but we will look at a definition for reference angles, and then we'll go over some examples of reference angles. And there's an important note for you to make during the slideshow portion of the lesson. All right, so a reference angle is the acute angle formed between the terminal side of an angle in standard position and the x-axis, except for quadrantal angles. And something super important to note, it's always acute. It's always an acute angle between 0 and 90. All right, so we have a few examples here. So the first one, we have theta equaling 60 degrees. So the first thing I would really ask myself, do I have an acute angle? And I do. So the reference angle here is really the angle that's between the terminal side and the x-axis. So here that's already a 60-degree angle. So we're good. We don't have to do anything else. Our reference angle here, or R, is 60. All right, for the next example, we have theta equaling 135 degrees. Well, what I would need to ask myself is that an acute angle? And it's not. So the reference angle is what occurs between the terminal side and the x-axis. It has to be acute. So in this example, the reference angle is 45 degrees. Now, you might ask why. Well, the other side of the x-axis makes a 180-degree angle. So I could really just take 135 away from 180, and I'll get 45 degrees. Okay, that will be important to note later on. All right, in the next angle, it's 240 degrees. So really what I would ask myself is, do I have an acute angle already, something between 0 and 90? If I don't have a reference angle. Again, the reference angle is what's drawn with those purple lines there. To find the reference angle for this particular one, I could just take 240 and subtract 180 from that. All right, that's going to give me the measure of the reference angle, which is 60. All right, finally, we have a 315-degree angle. Clearly, that's not between 0 and 90. It's not acute. To find the reference angle, which is that acute part of the angle that we have, I might want to ask myself, well, I'm at 315. I got to get, if I went all the way around, I would be at 360. So really, I have an additional 45 degrees I need to travel. So that's my reference angle. So an important note, and I would write this down in your notes before you start onto the practice problems. To get the reference angle, we're going to add or subtract 180 degrees to find the reference angle until we get an acute angle. So in all of these examples, really what we did, and I'll go back one. Really what we did is, if we didn't have an acute angle, so for example, in the 135-degree triangle, we realized it was not acute, so I can just take that angle 180 minus 135, and that gets me to an acute angle, 45-degree angle. For the second example, or the second non-acute example, that 240 degrees, I could just take 240, and I would want to subtract 180 from that. So if the number is bigger than 180, we're going to subtract 180 from it. If the number is less than 180, we're going to subtract that number from 180. All right, finally, for the last, for the last example, so for that last example, we had 315. Am I going to add 180 to that or subtract 180? Well, you're right if you said we would subtract 180. So 315 minus 180. If you need your calculator, that's fine. It's not something that I would expect you to be able to do in your head. We get 135. So for this one, if I did 315 minus 180, what do you notice about what we get when we subtract those two numbers? Are we at an acute angle? So you're right if you said we are not. We're still at an angle measurement above 90. So I'm going to have to subtract this 135 from 180. And I end up with 45 degrees. So that's my reference angle. So the important takeaways here are really that reference angles must be acute, and to find the reference angle, we either add or subtract 180 from the angle that we're given until it is acute. All right, there are some practice problems here for you to try, questions 1 and 2, and I'll see you in the next video.